Hey, and good Tuesday morning, everybody. Meteorologist Greg Majeski back with you here on the Weather News YouTube channel with your Hurricane Central Live update here on what's going to be an historic day, unfortunately. And just prepare yourself for some of the images you're going to see coming out of Jamaica by the end of today, because it's going to be just one of those days where you pray for things not to happen certain ways, but everything's coming together here. We're dealing with an historic storm. We're talking about a top 10 strongest storms ever in the Atlantic. And this is going to be one of the most devastating hurricanes to hit the island of Jamaica ever. And this is going to do a tremendous amount of damage. There's going to be some loss of life. And all we can do at this point is just pray that those folks have evacuated as best they can and are prepared to what's going on. Again, I want to thank everybody for checking us out here on the channel. If you're coming to this after the live broadcast and you're not a subscriber, please consider subscribing to the channel. I like to be your no-nonsense weather guy and give you critical weather updates without going crazy on you, like treating every storm as the biggest ever. Now, in this case, though, this is one of the biggest ever. So you can be a little hype on this one because really you just got to run out of words to describe what you're seeing. I've been doing this a long time. Almost 30 years, and to see a storm like this and looking at that eye is just tremendous just to see this. And we're only a few more hours away. Coastline sitting right here, so we're only a few more hours away from landfall on this thing. And we're going to take a look around and see what's going on out there. In fact, there is a chaser out there. I saw it pop up here this morning, showing some live videos. There's some of the live videos right now as we speak out of Jamaica. You can see the tremendous winds that are already blowing up through that area. Now, they're probably hiding in behind a parking garage and getting stuff. But I tell you, a lot of the trees, a lot of that power line infrastructure, they're already getting gusts here well into tropical storm strength. You can see there on that live shot right there. And conditions are just going to continue to deteriorate here this morning as we get closer and closer to a landfall that we're going to have here. The first landfall, first of several. It's got to go over, obviously, Jamaica, go over Cuba, and then it's going to go over the islands of the Bahamas as well. So things are going to be going downhill pretty quickly there. We'll take another camera look here. We got the live camera here of the bay. Let's see if this thing comes up here. Yeah, it's still looking very choppy. This is Kingston Harbor, a little bit down the coast there. It's a little bit further away. So Kingston, again, the hurricane force winds do not go out overly far from the center. So Kingston definitely not going to get the worst of this. Montego Bay, that area there, Manville, Alligator Pond, that area is going to get really devastated here pretty badly. So again, just kind of give you an idea here of the storm. Let me go back to the storm here real quick. And what I'm going to do here, let me take a look at I want to look at the stats real quick. So just bear with me for a second while I go look at this. The pressure's down to 901 millibars. To give you perspective on that, folks, the Hurricane Wilma was 892 millibars. That's the lowest. That's the lowest ever recorded. So it's only 9 millibars from that. And I'd say the model from a few days ago, they had down to 900 millibars. It nailed it. So again, we definitely got a bullseye on that one for strength wise. Now let's see here. I'm looking at all the specifics. We're at 175 mile per hour winds. Hurricane force winds are still only 30 miles from the center. So that's what I wanted to just verify that real quick. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to draw this out. I'm going to freeze this real quick, and I'm going to do a little measuring thing here from here and going out 30 miles, just so you can get an idea of 30 miles from the center. Let me reset that one more time. Let me do that one more time. I'm going to do it from dead center. So I'm going dead center of that eye. I'm going to go out 30 miles. So that's about 30 miles right there. Okay, so in that path trajectory, as you can see, Kingston is not expected to get the hurricane force winds, but they're going to get a tremendous amount of rain. We're talking a lot of flooding going to be taking place on a lot of landslides. Flooding going to be a problem, but that is 30 miles from the center is the hurricane force winds, and it deteriorates very rapidly. So where that storm chaser is currently at, and at that current trajectory, he will get hurricane force winds in there. Now, Kingston could still see some hurricane gusts there, potentially, but again, this is... it shouldn't be quite as bad on the far eastern end of the island. That's why I hope they evacuated most of the people. Anybody that's in this portion of the island is really going to be under some life-threatening conditions. I mean, all the trees in this area are going to be decimated. They're going to be down. Power grid's going to be obliterated. Montego Bay, which of course is up here. This is where all the your tourist resorts and stuff are. They're going to get impacted as well. But boy, anywhere on 30 miles of the center of that circulation, boy, it's going to be quite a devastation that's going to be unprecedented. Again, it just kind of prepare yourself. If you remember the island devastation we saw last year, Beryl, I think it'll be somewhere on that scale. That's what you're going to see here going into tomorrow when they start probably doing some checking on people, evacuations, rescues. I'm sure we're going to have a few of those on the island for sure as we go about here. Let's go look at the quad area. Look at the different cameras here. I know one of the cameras, the map pen camera, went down. It's down right now. Well, it came back up. There, it's back up. Okay, it was down earlier. It's back up. So you can kind of see all the cameras there. So we know the power grid's still up. I don't know how much longer we're going to have that power grid and those cameras there, but we'll continue to monitor that. Now, the Turks and Caicos Islands, they're down in the bottom right-hand corner. That's not going to happen until we get to Thursday, Wednesday night, Thursday, before they see the action go downhill there. The storm won't be nearly as strong at that point as it's going on. But we're talking about a Category 5 hurricane, 175 mile per hour winds. We're talking 215 mile per hour gusts. I mean, can you fathom that? 215 mile per hour gusts. It's just unbelievable of what the island of Jamaica is going to experience here for today. Now, I'm going to go ahead and show you real quick. This has not changed, just so everybody kind of can see that the official track and everything here. Let me go get that up right here. Again, the track has not changed. This is still holding very true here. So again, you see all the hurricane warnings that are out here for Jamaica, Cuba, and into the Bahamas. We got some tropical storm warnings here on the periphery of this thing as this moves on out. So the trough has now finally picked it up. It's starting to move forward now. It stalled briefly yesterday evening for a little bit before it finally got picked up. And now it's picked up speed. It was at 5 miles per hour at the 5 o'clock. Now it's up to 7. So we're starting to increase that forward speed just a little bit as this thing continues to move off toward the northeast now, heading toward the island of Jamaica. We're just a few hours away from landfall. Let's go look at the model data here. We're going to kind of illustrate what's going on, what's driving this, so you can kind of see the big perspective here. Let me get that up for you real quick. As I switch over to that, there we go. So we're looking at the upper level winds here real quick here. I'll go back to this one. Here we go. So this is the European model. Again, this thing's getting driven by this big trough that's kind of picked up here across the east. It's going to be picking this thing up and dragging it right on out, which is what it needs to do. But unfortunately, it got just too strong. The European still hasn't really showed this thing as far as its strength. But here goes that big trough coming right out there. That's going to be kind of driving this straight on out. So we'll watch that little timestamp. You'll see how quickly this thing's going to accelerate. I mean, it's going to take off like warp speed across the Atlantic. Once it gets picked up, it's going to go very fast. So you kind of see it there for today. Tomorrow, Wednesday evening, we're in the Bahamas there. So we're coming on in there. We're going to the Bahamas, and then it's going to race up and get very close to Bermuda going into Friday. And it'll go right past Bermuda and then out to sea, and then we're done with this system. But we just kind of race this right on out there. All right. So here again, there's different perspective kind of for the precipitation mode here. As this little piece of energy here started, this was tugging on it initially, but it's this big trough back here, the upper level low, that's dipping into the southeast. It's really going to pick this thing up and really accelerate it out. So as it exits the eastern seaboard, it just gives it a real kick in the pants. Bam, just get it kicking right on out and over past Bermuda. So that's our official track there as this thing goes on by. And stay over there real quick. So anyway, that is where we're at right now. I'll go back here to this camera here again and just, probably see the birds still going. Did you guys see the report yesterday, by the way? There was a report yesterday that when the Hurricane Hunter aircraft were out in the eye, there were birds that were actually trapped in the eye. Just unreal. And another thing I do want to show you. Let me go to studio mode real quick because I want to switch this satellite image over to lightning. I was looking at this morning, and it was just unbelievable amount of lightning that was showing up in the eye wall still there. So just give me a second. I need to switch that over to that perspective real quick. So I want to switch this over. I got it on regular visible, so I want you all to be able to see this. So stand by here for a second, and let's get this thing up there. Get that down, and yeah, still see, look at all that lighting in there. Wow, yeah. Oh, just unbelievable. Wow, check this out, guys. Just look at the lightning that's in the eye. I probably need to turn Kingston off there, so bear with me for a second to turn that off for a second so you can kind of see that. Oops, get that on there. There we go. But look at all that lighting. Unbelievable. Wow, that's just amazing. That is just so amazing to see. all that lightning. Look at that. Look at all the lightning. That's lightning, folks, embedded in that eye wall. Look how concentrated that is. That is absolutely amazing. Look at that. You don't see that kind of concentration of lightning in an eye wall. I mean, not that much. I mean, you occasionally get the little clusters and stuff, but this only happens with some of the most intense hurricanes that you can get out there. That's what you get out there for something like that. Again, if you're kind of new and you're just checking in here this morning, I'm on here for a little bit, doing some coverage here on historic Hurricane Melissa, which is getting closer and closer to landfall there, coming into Jamaica here in the next few hours. I got to take my daughter to go get a military ID this morning. I got to take care of that this morning. It's important for her to have that. And but I want to do a little coverage here for this morning before we go. If you are new to the channel, please consider hitting that subscribe button. It'd be an honor and pleasure to be one of your weather sources. God knows there's enough of us out there in this social media universe. All right, so again, I want to go back here to Radar Mega here. Again, look at this. I want to continue to check back with our storm chaser. There's one actually out there on the island that is streaming. So I definitely want to continue to check back with his view out there as this thing gets closer and closer. So we're going to go check out the perspective. Doesn't look too bad right now. Still looks like he's dealing with tropical storm force winds, I would say gusts right now. But again, the only saving grace, I'm trying to be positive, some positivity on this thing, is the fact the storm is so compact that the eastern end of the island, or Kingston over that part of the island, likely will not see hurricane force winds because the winds are so doggone tight. Okay, that was a positive. Thank you guys for the subscribers. I do appreciate it, man. I've been stuck for a while too, by the way. So it's good to get that thing moving. But again, this is what we're going to be seeing here. These conditions. You notice the power lines and stuff there. A lot of that's where he's at. It's probably there. A lot of those are going to come down. I mean, it really is. I wish I had pulled. If I'd had a brain and pulled the video from Barbados when they got hit last year from Beryl, that would have been a good comparison. Really kind of see what's going on there. But I'll go in a little bit closer here a little bit. I want to see how many miles he is from the actual center. So there he is. So what we're looking at here, just to give you an idea, here's our storm chaser. Of course, here is our eye right here. So let me freeze this real quick. I'm gonna clear this out. I'm going to freeze this right here. So let's check how many miles he actually is from the center of circulation. So let's do it from the eye wall, because this is the eye wall. See this right here? This is the eye wall. This is where the most intense winds are. Right around this ring is where you got that 175 mile per hour winds right in here. That's where the strongest winds are. So right now he is approximately 43 miles from the center of from the outer edge of that eye wall. So he's 43 miles away. And thank you, Tracy Busby. Thank you for coming on board. So he's going to be, I think the worst of it's going to stay just to his west, but if it continues on the path, so the closest he's going to be to the center of circulation within about 15 miles. So he's only about 15 miles from there. So when this thing gets up there, he's going to be seeing, I think he'll easily see winds to 100 miles per hour. Very easily. You'll very easily see that in that zone. I don't know how many other chasers went down there to chase. I know there's a few. But again, this whole thing, 812, Alligator Pond. Let me turn this off real quick. I'm kind of, Albert Town, Falmouth, Montego Bay, which is where all the touristy places are. They're going to see a lot. They're going to see some damage too. But this is on the left side of the storm. Keep in mind, it's everything on the right. Everything on the right side here. Runaway Bay, 9 Mile, Brownstown, Albert Town, maybe Tollgate, everything that's in this zone over here. Okay, so again, you go, you just measure out from the path and go out 30 miles here. And to kind of give you an idea from the center of the island. So that's your circle. There's your circle right there. That's the hurricane force winds all in that zone. So Kingston is on the edge. They're outside that zone. So they're going to be looking at the tropical storm force winds. So this is the only positive I can spin on this, is that, but the central portion of this island is going to be absolutely decimated, especially where that core of that hurricane tracks along that path going inland. That's going to be, every tree, every power line, again, this is a third world country too. What I'll probably be doing here in the days ahead, I'll be posting some links to the American Red Cross and stuff like that. I know that the Navy right now, I did see a story on this, is on standby. They're ready to go on in there with search and rescue efforts once the storm has subsided. There'll be a lot of relief efforts going in. Like I said, the positive side of this is that if it holds that path, that the Kingston area, this is where the airport is down this way, maybe doesn't get impacted as badly as, say, other parts of the island. So that's the now, because the earlier path, by the way, was closer to Kingston. It was over this way. It did shift a little bit further to the west. So and then yesterday afternoon, what it was doing a westward drift. I was like, well, maybe if it drifts a little bit further west, maybe a little more less of the island will be impacted as badly here. But unfortunately, that did not come to pass. But again, I tell you that the most amazing thing to me is that image right there. The sheer cluster of lightning there that's in that eye wall is just absolutely amazing. Of course, you get this. This is normal. You see these outer bands with these thunderstorms out here. That's very normal. But to see that kind of concentration, that orange around an eye wall, that's just nonstop lightning data. So I'm looking forward to once this thing goes by, I'm sure we're going to get some images, especially with the sun now coming up, of all that lightning just kind of flashing in the center of circulation. It's going to remind me of the Barrow last year. I remember it had a very high concentration of lightning on there. And thank you for that new subscriber, by the way. I do like to take time to say thanks when somebody subscribes. So again, let's go back over here to the 4 cameras. I'm gonna keep checking on these cameras because you got to keep watchful eye and kind of see what's going on. These are YouTube links, by the way. And so if you guys don't know anything about YouTube, you got to make sure you hit the refresh. So you'll see it kind of reset every time it goes out there. You got to reset those cameras because what YouTube will do is if you don't do that, it kind of gets stuck where you last left off. It doesn't go forward. So I got to refresh it every time. Kingston Harbor does not look all that bad right now. That's in that lower left-hand corner. So that's that image right there. It's a little rough out there. I'm sure they've had a lot of tremendous amount of water being driven up there, and that's going to continue to be a problem too. Is that storm surge? Okay, obviously the high winds, 175 mile per hour winds. I mean, we're talking about like an EF3 tornado, EF4 tornado here with these winds. It's just unbelievable. That's going to be going on. And the thing is about that eye wall, by the way. You get these little vortices that kind of rotate around that center of circulation. So they're like mini tornadoes spinning all around that eye wall that's just going around in circles. And also keep in mind that you've got this storm going over. It's a little mountainous, okay? So all that water is going to be shoving into the island. The mountain's going to lift that up, and it's going to squeeze any additional tropical moisture as much as it can out. It acts like a little bit of a sponge a little bit and kind of helps squeeze that additional water. The fact it's starting to move a little bit is a positive sign. Hopefully it'll pick up speed quicker because the quicker it moves, it means less water as far as rainfall they're going to get. They're getting a lot of heavy rain right now. But again, that's a positive there. Again, I'm trying to spin this as best I can as far as trying to find some positive things to say outside of all the negative doom and gloom that we're going to get, because I know we're going to get that. I know we're going to have some deaths. I know we're going to have some stories. I know we're going to have some devastation on this island, especially where that core is going to go. It's going to look like one big giant, hurricane, tornado. In fact, let's do this. I haven't done this yet. Here's something we can do here real quick. Let me freeze this image here. Let's measure how far across this eye is here. We'll just kind of go from one eye wall to eye wall. So that's about 12 miles across. So can you imagine a tornado that's 12 miles across? Because that's basically what this thing is, for all intents and purposes. A 12-mile wide tornado that's going to just go plow right through that part of Jamaica. It's unreal that they're gonna have to deal with this. So now the good news is, like I said, they have had a lot of time to prepare for this. Okay, a lot of times when we get a situation like this, it comes on quickly. You don't get a lot of time to prepare. They've been able to watch this for a long time. So I do suspect those who did evacuate, based off what we saw right now, are probably going to be on the far end of the island. So they're going to be, a lot of folks going to be hanging out down here, as far away from down here as possible. So everybody's probably moved over here. So Jamaica's probably has got the population similar to the state of Mississippi, put it that way. I saw that out there on social media world. So you got a few million folks, but they're all going to be clustering down on this end of the island to get away from this thing. But you're going to have people that aren't going to go. That happens. I don't care. It can be in the United States. It could be in the Bahamas. It could be in Jamaica, Cuba. There are going to be some people who are just not going to evacuate. They're not going to think it's that bad. And that's unfortunately, that's what's going to happen with this. So again, if you're just kind of new joining in, if you're just kind of coming in, again, we're watching this historic storm getting ready to make a landfall here in the next few hours. Again, we're talking about this hurricane with top sustained winds of 175 miles per hour, moving north-northeast at 7. Okay, the hurricane force winds go out about 30 miles from the center, and the tropical storm force winds about some 200 plus miles from the center of circulation. So a little bit bigger than what it was yesterday as far as the expanse there a little bit. Now this wind field will open up. It will increase in size as it moves inland there. We're going to see that happen as well. In fact, I could show you that here on one of the models here. We'll look at the latest hurricane model here. I want to show you this. This is the 6Z. This is what's still chewing a little bit, but I got most of it here. So let's go ahead and show you this real quick. So let me get over to here. All right. So again, you notice how tight this wind wind profile is across there. So this is where your core hurricane, your CDO, your central dense overcast there, as this thing's going to move. And watch what happens to this wind field. You're going to notice as it goes across the island here. And it's going to weaken. It does weaken a bit as it's going over land because you take it away from its land, its source there. Once it goes across Cuba, this wind profile more than doubles in size. It really does increase. That wind field is going to expand outward because all that energy is concentrated across the center. And like a skater that throws his arms out, it's going to slow down. So it's going to slow down. That wind field is going to spread on out, and that's what you're going to see with this thing moving on through the Bahamas there. And the Bahamas is going to have some damage too. So the southern part of these Bahamas, the Turks and Caicos, they're going to get some damage as well. And thank you for that new subscriber. Thank you. And as this thing moves on out, and then it's going to go up to the north, and it looks like right now there's the island of Bermuda right here. So it looks like it's going to stay on the right side. Sandra Hall, thank you, Sandra. Appreciate you. That's going to stay off to the right there. All right, so that's what we're looking at right there. But right now we're just a few hours. I'm back this up here from this thing making landfall. And this model looks fairly close. It might be just a little bit more to the east than what the current track is showing there. But again, this is getting close to crunch time. Let me back this off just a little bit here. Just a little bit. Again, I got to get a new, the one thing I got to get today is a new mouse. My mouse is getting a little worn out here. I'll go back here to Tornado Pagey. Let's see if he's still broadcasting here. Oh boy, yeah, he's gonna get that. You're gonna get a lot of people out there. He does have not a tremendous amount of people on there, but that's gonna happen. So I suspect we're gonna be losing our connectivity. There it goes, came up there. There we go. We only probably got a few more hours of connectivity for this because once the power grid starts to cascade and go down, that's gonna cause a problem. But again, where he's at right now doesn't look all that bad. Still looks like tropical storm force winds for the most part coming through there for this morning. So appreciate you guys out there on the chat this morning. I see y'all out there. I see Sean, Rita, good morning. Alpine Singh, good to see you. Edith's out there. Rita, good to see you. Sean, good morning, guys. Appreciate you guys checking out the broadcast this morning. Thank you very much for watching. Like I said, we're going to do this for a little bit this morning. I'll do this for probably another half hour. Then I got to work on something else before I go on to something else. So glad to see y'all stay with us here for a little bit here. Let's do a little bit of coverage. And then when I come back this afternoon, we'll play it by ear. I think by the time I come back, this storm have made landfall by that time. But we'll continue to do these updates, by the way. We're going to continue to do these tomorrow, this evening. We'll have an update this evening. We'll have another update tomorrow morning as well until the storm has cleared the Bahamas and things begin to improve there. So we'll be tracking the conditions in the Bahamas for tomorrow. So anyway, that's Kingston Harbor. Which again is it's good that they're going to get some storm surge because all that water is going to pile up that way. As it continues, the water is just going to continue to pile on as it gets closer and closer to landfall. So again, as you got this water that is kind of blowing through here. Let me get this up real quick. Here we go. Clear that out. And you got all this water that's just going to be continuing to plow into the coastal areas. So the coastal areas, right through here, is going to be seeing a lot of flooding action along the coast there. All right, so some tremendous storm surge, probably 20-foot wall of water is just going plowing through there as this thing makes its landfall. So I'm just kind of going through the specs here. All right, see here. I see if I'm out. Okay, so the tropical storm force winds are 195 miles from the center. I can see Jamaica, Kingston support had a sustained wind of 43 miles per hour earlier with gusts of 59. Sangster International Airport, Montego Bay, that one had a wind of 38 with a sustained wind of 54. So I suspect that it's going to be the airport, the international airport in Kingston is where most of the relief efforts are going to go, because I'm not sure how much that airport in Montego Bay is going to be able to get in there. And thank you for that new subscriber, by the way. Thank you. As that continues to deteriorate up that way. So I'm just kind of looking through this. Montego Bay is looking at 2 to 4 foot storm surge in there, so that's not too bad. But where it's going to be making its peak surge is 7 to 11 feet. Okay, so the water's pretty deep down in that area, so as that goes inland, that should be a problem. And then looking at the Turks and Caicos, looking at 4 to 6 feet as it moves up that way. All right, so that's the latest on that. The next update from the Hurricane Center will be coming in at 11 o'clock, and I suspect by 11 o'clock, looking at where it's at now and the way it's moving, we'd probably be very close to landfall by 11, getting pretty close, because let's go ahead and freeze that real quick. Let's see, we'll do a little measurement here. From the eye wall to the coast is about, I'd say about 30 miles, 32 miles. Okay, so it's moving at 7. I guess if it doesn't accelerate the speed, obviously, if it picks up speed, which I think it will, 7 miles per hour, and you got 30 miles, that's about, what, 4 hours away? So that would be like 11:30-ish, 12:30-ish. I don't think it'll be that late. I think the speed's going to, but the next advisory, it's going to pick up, because it looks like to me it's picking up from some forward speed a little bit as that's continuing to move along there. So kind of wish there was a good Jamaican radar to be able to see the radar scope on this thing. Did you guys see some of the stuff out on Twitter showing the Air Force Recon going in there? Just amazing video. It was like they came out of the dark, and it was like, this like a heavenly view of the sun coming through, and the classic stadium effect. Because that's what you're looking at when you look at that eye right there. Is you got this stadium effect kind of coming out where everything kind of curls in like this, and it is just absolute amazing view on there. And I hated hearing the poor birds got trapped in the eye there. It was terrible to see that. Thank you, Sean. Yeah, it's a powerful storm. As far as the actual size, guys, it's a fairly average size hurricane as far as the size. Okay, but as far as the power, it's a lot, and it's always the compact storms that typically get to be the most powerful. What's been interesting with this thing as I've watched it is the fact that it's not gone through an eye wall replacement cycle, and it has held on to this now for a good amount of time. Now it's got a 12-mile wide eye, which is a good eye. You don't want, if they get too small, too tight, they typically fall apart. They don't last very long. We saw that with Aaron earlier, for example. But this is the 3rd Category 5 hurricane that we have seen in the Atlantic this year. That is unprecedented. That's never happened. We've never had 3 Category 5 hurricanes in the same year. I believe I'm correct on that. It's just this has been unprecedented. Now the heat content this year in the Atlantic compared to previous years has not been as high as previous years. Like I can show you this real quick. You can see here. This is where we're currently sitting right here, but these are the last 2 years, but still above the normal. This is the black. That kind of tells you the amount of latent heat that's in the tropics. That's what that's all about. That shows you the heat that's in that area there. All right, fix that real quick. So it is above normal. We got above normal heat out there. The water temperatures out there have been sitting mostly into the mid 80s. That's where they've been here for the most part. In fact, I'll go ahead and kind of illustrate this for you real quick. Kind of show you this. Again, I'm going to go out here to getting into Jamaica here a little quick. Let me zoom in a little bit closer. Too much. Back off. There we go. So about where this is sitting here, going to do a quick little scan here. It is sitting at 84 degrees. Okay, so 84, 85 degrees. That's been the water temperature in that area. So not too terribly. I've seen it 86, 87 degree water temperature, but around 84, 85, pretty warm. It's of course out there in the tropics. So that is what's feeding that that fuel source. A lot of latent heat out there. So looks like we're going to finish the hurricane season in the United States. We've only got 32 days left without a landfalling system hitting the continent of the United States. We had 4 last year, so we definitely deserve a break. But you don't like seeing what we're seeing here with Jamaica getting ready to take a bad hit. I probably need to go out and see if I could find me another camera for Montego Bay. I was trying earlier, but I couldn't find one worth a damn. They were not coming on, so but I might take a look a little bit later here. Maybe I can see them a little bit in a little bit here. So let's go back here to the update here. Again, if anybody's new, kind of joining us once again, if you've not heard the update on this, again, there's the track again. 175 mile per hour winds. Just unprecedented storm here. Historical. The pressure down to 901 millibars. Again, just 892 was Hurricane Wilma back in 2005. That's the strongest hurricane as far as pressure in the Atlantic Basin. So this one is a top 10 storm. So when we say use words historic, we use catastrophic. That's not hype. That's the actual honest to God truth. Okay. My only problem with some of the weather folks out there in the YouTube universe is that they say that for every storm. Okay. When you do that, you diminish the significance of a storm like this. You know, this one is definitely one that's not a storm of historic proportions, because it is, because the pressure says it is, because the wind speed says it is. The images you're going to see coming out of Jamaica says it is. It is just one of those things where we're dealing with a climate that's changing across the planet. You got a warming planet. You got more latent heat in the tropics, and we're going to continue to get these spin-ups of these big, huge storms like this. We may not see, one thing we've not really seen significant, if you look historically, is we haven't seen a big, huge, like spike in the numbers so much. But boy, they've been a lot more powerful. This year, it seems like every hurricane that got spun up was a major hurricane. All, you know, we're all big. Aaron was big. Umberto was big. So this one was big. That's our 3. You know, we've had these Category 5 hurricanes. This unbelievable that we've seen that so far this year. Hey, Edith, what you got there? Yeah, Big Bay of Florida. Yeah, you guys have been good down there. Florida is not. Of course, everybody remembers Hurricane Michael back in 2018 that hit down there toward Panama City, and like that was one that I was broadcasting when I was doing Facebook and doing streaming on that, and I called it on that one. I knew that the Hurricane Center was not being good on the strength on that one. That was one I was all over. But this one, just everything looked right to me. It was when it was coming in, and when this storm was coming into the basin, you know, it was undergoing some wind shear. It was kind of fighting it. But we knew that we were going to get high pressure aloft, that the winds were going to lighten up. We had a lot of latent heat out there, and we knew it was going to have time to stew. The only thing that's really surprised me with this storm is the longevity of the eye that is held together here, and I don't think it's not gonna, you know, not gonna see that change here. I think it's gonna. But one thing, when it gets over land, when it starts to feel that effects of the land, you're gonna definitely see that start to impact that eye somewhat. So we're down to 23 miles. Yeah, this thing's definitely picking up speed. There's no doubt about that. I'm looking from the eye wall to the coast is 23 miles right now. And let's go back to our storm chaser here, see what he's seeing there. A lot of wind, just not bad. Again, when the conditions go downhill where he's at, it's going to go downhill very fast. It's going to sneak. You'll hear it like a freight train kind of running in from the coast, and it'll go downhill very quickly. I'm sure he's probably in some sort of parking garage or something that's a solid structure there with his the wind to his back, so he can continue to monitor this. I'm not sure if he's using the existing infrastructure to stream this, or if he's using a Starlink perhaps to be able to hold on and be able to do the broadcast. We'll have to wait and see if he's able to continue streaming as this thing gets closer and closer to landfall. It is now 8:45 in the morning. Good morning, everybody. Got good enough of you guys out there watching our broadcast this morning. Again, thank you for checking in. If you have not subscribed to the channel, I'd appreciate you going and helping our little channel out. I'd appreciate you doing so at this time. And to be one of your weather sources, there's enough of us out there. But you go with who you feel the most comfortable with. And I do appreciate you guys checking out the coverage here today. Let's go back over to Kingston Bay. Let's see how things are looking at Kingston there. And get that camera up there. Again, it's still not looking too bad there in Kingston. I really think Kingston is far enough away from the center. They're going to have tropical storm force winds. They're going to have, I think a lot of the relief efforts are going to probably come out of Kingston. Maybe not so much Montego Bay because it's going to be closer to where the real damage is going to be. And again, I hope a lot of the folks have gone to the eastern side of the island and as far east as they could go away from the storm. The western side is not bad either, but it's closer to the core winds. And thank you for that new subscriber. So we'll see how that works out with the I don't want to. I would love if they come out and say there was no loss of life after this storm goes by. I'd be like, thank you. That's a true miracle, true blessing. But I know watching and covering these storms and all the years I've seen this. It's inevitable. It's going to happen. The question is, we're going to have a loss of life. This is a question of how much loss of life, and let's hope that we just don't have that much. Let's keep it, let's keep it down on the low side. And folks are heeding what's been said here for days and days and days and days because this storm we've been talking about it for a long time. We've been talking about it for about a week. So Jamaica knew when I was doing a live update on this on Saturday. When we were looking at the cameras, folks were kind of doing their thing, normal day-to-day stuff. And then stuff started getting a little crazier out. Then as soon as it became evident that, this was going to be a bad storm, they definitely started watching and coming in here. So, so it's just one of those things, the people's psyche, you just don't know how they're going to feel and how they're going to do this. So, I keep checking back with this camera, and I'm going to keep checking back with this camera because he is the closest camera to the winds, where the storm is going to be making its landfall here soon. So we're going to keep this going here. I'm going to stay broadcasting up until about 9:30. That's as late as I can go because I've got to go take my daughter to get a military ID today. I have to do it today, unfortunately, and get that, and then once I get back from that, after I update a couple of my local weather channels, I'll come back on here this evening for an update. But we're going to continue some live coverage here for a little bit while. And thank you, everybody, for coming on board. I don't have my Chat Ninja program anymore. For those who've watched this in the past, it was my way to bring up the chats and acknowledge y'all one-on-one. But I do have my chat stream over here on my side monitor, so I can look over there. So I keep looking. If you guys have any questions or anything, y'all could just put it down below. And I'm kind of saying hello to everybody out there. And good to see Edith out there as well. Mary Rosa. Yeah, Hurricane Harvey was a big one, that's for sure. Peaceful Paradise. I am a dispatcher for the Cajun Navy for Harvey. Oh, you were in the Harvey. Yeah, that was a bad one. Yeah, that caused all that flooding. I remember Harvey. That was a real bad one there. There's Sean. Yeah, I saw you earlier there. So I'm going to double check my chat here real quick. Let me double check here, just making sure everything looks good. All right, everything looks good. All right. Anyway, for those who might be just joining us for the first time, let me introduce myself. I'm meteorologist Greg Majeski here on the Weather Nerds YouTube channel. And we're watching the conditions here for this bad boy here, a bad girl, whatever you want to call it. It's a very bad hurricane here that's getting ready to make landfall here on the island of Jamaica. And that is not a misprint. If you look at the top there, that top right-hand corner showing you the current conditions, 175 mile per hour winds. Category 5 is 156 mile per hour winds. So it is 19 miles per hour higher with the winds there of just catastrophic proportion. I mean, just unprecedented storm, a top 10 storm all time historically in the Atlantic. And this thing is going to cause severe damage across the infrastructure of the island of Jamaica. Now, Kingston, which is the capital, which is down here, is far enough east away from the center that their damage there should be fairly limited. They're going to get some storm surge in the bay, There'll be some issues, but not as catastrophic as where the center of circulation. And the reason why I say that is because the hurricane force winds only go about 30 miles from the center of circulation. So we're talking, you're talking 30 miles. So when you look at the track here, you go out 30 miles. Again, you can kind of see where this is. We go up here to the center of the island here. So you go out 30 miles here. There it is. So again, you're looking at, you go out that far away from the center of circulation, and you know where the hurricane force winds are going to be the strongest. Now, the tropical force winds, they cover everything. That's going to cover everybody. There's no doubt about that. They're going to get tropical storm winds in Kingston. Some of those outer bands are going to cause some problems. But Kingston will probably likely not see they'll probably get some gusts. I think they'll probably get some gusts close to it for the most part. So this thing getting closer and closer to landfall here. Again, the coast is sitting right through here. You see where this coastal road is right through here. So we're getting very close to landfall here in the next couple hours. It is picking up forward momentum. The last report was 7 miles per hour. I suspect on the 11 o'clock advisory, it's probably going to say 10, 11, 12 miles per hour. I think it's picking up some forward momentum, at least, eyeballing it with the storm. What's interesting, I want to just look at this, guys. I mean, just look at the swirl. Look closely at the visible satellite imagery here, showing the swirl in here. Now, I'm not sure if we've got enough visible yet with the sun. I'm going to go over to the visible satellite imagery. Not quite, not there yet. We're getting close. So we're looking at the visible here, just starting to come in. Look at the waves. That is amazing to me. Wow. I mean, you only see that on the most intense hurricanes, guys. You only see that where you see that ripple effect kind of swirling around. I mean, just a perfect vortex, an absolute perfect symmetrical vortex. That's just a big heat engine that's just feeding off those warm waters of the Atlantic. Now, as it gets closer to the coast and some of that inflow gets disrupted by some of the mountains there across Jamaica, that should weaken this eye a little bit. In fact, it wouldn't shock me if, as it emerges on the other side, that the eye begins to look a little bit ragged by the time it gets across there. So, but its forward speed, if it picks up the forward speed, if it goes across the island slowly, it'll weaken a lot quicker. But if it goes a lot faster, maybe not so much. But that is just amazing to me. And we'll keep checking back on that visible satellite imagery here as we get a little more daylight there. But this also tells the story because, again, all that in here, this is your eye wall. That's where your 175 mile per hour winds are sitting right in there as this thing's getting closer and closer to the coast. Go back to our chaser here. Still not looking bad. It still looks like tropical storm force winds there for the most part there. Doesn't look too bad there. I do suspect that tree, and I know what the storm chasers do because I've seen them out there where they do this. They'll find a good palm tree to keep an eye on so they can get an idea of what the winds are doing, and then wait for that palm tree to just fail and just get blown over. I suspect that tree probably won't be there potentially going in toward tomorrow. And a lot of these power lines and poles are going to start blowing down too. So, but he's in a good, I think he's in a good location. I think he's far enough away from the core of the hurricane to be safe, but still get a lot of good footage. So it's one of the things you got to do as a hurricane chaser or storm chasers. You got to think safety and things like that. Make sure you're on board with there. Do I think it's reached its lowest level? Probably. I don't think it's going to get any lower than what it is. I don't believe it's going to get low. I'm going to double check something here. Stand by here for a second. I want to double check and see if we got another vortex message out there. So just bear with me for a second while I go ahead and look that up for you. I want to see if there's been a new vortex message from the hurricane center. So a vortex message is a data burst that the hurricane hunters send out to update you on the thing. So last update here was 903 millibars. It was 901 on the last advisory. So I think we've bottomed out. I don't see it getting any stronger. We're not going to make a run at Wilma, put it that way. This will go down at 901 millibars. So the eye is closed, looking at 10-mile wide eye. Flight level winds are at 165 knots. So let me do the conversion on that. I think I got an idea what that is. We'll make sure I'm right here. That is 190 miles per hour, flight level winds. That's sustained flight level winds at 190, which can work itself down. That's why it's 175. So you got 175 mile per hour winds, wind gusts to 215. Just unbelievable. This is just unreal to see this. So anyway, let's go back over here to the model data real quick. Again, for those who might be just joining us, here is the last of the model data here. This is the last one. This one's just getting updated here. I'm going to reload this one more time. I think I got the whole thing up. The 6Z up, it's all the way in. So just that completely nice symmetrical storm. But look at what happens when it starts interacting with the island. See how ragged it kind of looks? There it looks like perfect. It's like perfect symmetry. Interacts with the land. Again, you take away that fuel source, that warm oceans, not to mention some mountains in there. That disrupts the airflow a little bit. So it's gonna weaken a bit. I still think it's gonna hold. I think it's gonna hold Cat 5 all across the island, just because it's gonna take a little while to unwind a little bit, and then it's gonna come across the eastern tip of Cuba. Guantanamo Bay, which is on the end there, will also get impacted there as this goes by. And then it goes into the Bahamas. And then as it goes into the Bahamas, that wind field really starts to expand up. I think what's right now, tropical force winds are only about 195 miles from the center. It's going to go out to probably 275. By 100 miles, it'll increase. The hurricane force winds, which are only about 30 miles from the center, will probably double. They'll spread out as the storm kind of opens up a little bit. So I do suspect we're going to see this thing kind of grow in size once it makes that initial 1-2 landfall. We got 2 landfalls. We got the one on Jamaica and then the one on Cuba going in here for today. Again, appreciate you guys checking out the channel. We got a good audience out there this morning. Again, appreciate you watching. And if you have not subscribed to the channel, I'd be please consider it. I would appreciate it. When you're a small channel like ours, you got to ask folks to do that, or the algorithm drops us like a bad habit. So please help us out there. I do appreciate you guys helping support the channel. All right, so let's go take a look here. Going to go back here to Omega here real quick, and we're going to take a look at this. And let me go back over here. We'll go back over here to there we go. All right, so again, we're getting closer and closer to landfall. Getting real close. Yeah, it's definitely picking up forward speed. I'm just tracking from where it was when we started broadcasting here. About 8:10 when I came on, 8:15, I think when I came on here. So we're getting really close. So I'm going to double check that mileage again. From the eye wall to the coast is 23 miles. 23 miles. So if it is picked up as full momentum, as I suspect it's up to maybe 10 or 11 miles per hour as it appears, I'd say we're only a couple hours. It's not about 11 o'clock. I think we're pretty much on landfall about 11 o'clock or so. That assumes it holds its speed. If it continues to accelerate, it may be a little bit quicker. Yeah, the wind's starting to pick up a little more there. I keep going back to that camera. I tell you, you're going to notice a real significant difference there. He lost his image there for a second. Let's see, it's buffering a little bit. Let's stay with that. If he's using a Starlink, here's the thing. If he's using a Starlink for his connectivity, as the core of the hurricane gets in there, it can disrupt the signal. Look at the clouds to the north. Look at these. Can you see these clouds? Look how fast they're moving. You can look at those clouds and just see how fast that is moving across the area quite a bit. Just unreal looking at the clouds as this thing's like. So the wind's not too bad there right now. But again, as this thing gets close, when this thing gets up here to near landfall, he's going to really see things go downhill in his area very, very quickly. There's some of the, looks like we're going to get a landfall here. Let me turn that off. Looks like right near Black River, I think. Right near looking there, Black River. Here's the core, Black River, Santa Cruz. This area right here. Not super familiar with it. Anybody familiar with the island Jamaica? If you guys have any, I know it's not one of the touristy. Montego Bay is obviously one of the tourist areas in the northern part of the island. Kingston's the big capital. That's where a lot of your stuff's over there. So this is not a very highly populated part of Jamaica. But because a lot of it is concentrated up here in Montego Bay. This is where all the touristy areas are, up in Montego Bay, and then you got Kingston. You got some stuff down here. That's your biggest cities. But you got a main highway this way. You got a 4-lane highway here going across the northern portion. See, so this is your north. This is just kind of back roads and stuff in here. So that's your two major highways there, going on, one to the north part of the island, one for the south part of the island. So if there was a part of the island that you wanted to hit, this is good. And thank you for the new subscriber, by the way. Thank you. this is probably the best place for it to go. Again, I do suspect they've evacuated everybody here to the far end of this island, Kingston, and over here. That's the furthest away from where the core of the hurricane is going in. So if folks have evacuated and heed the evacuation warnings from the officials there on Jamaica, they'll do that. Now, what's going to happen here, folks? Once the storm goes on by, and this thing will be, again, this is your 2 o'clock position here, 165 mile per hour winds there at 2 o'clock, and then it really accelerates quickly. I mean, it really does. Look here, by the time we get to 2 a.m. the next morning, it's all the way up toward Cuba. All right, so let me shut that down. So it's going to accelerate and go across. Now, once it does, all your folks that are coming in there for hurricane relief will come in. The Navy the Navy and the Coast Guard from the U.S. will probably be some of the first folks to get in there. They'll set up a camp, most likely down toward Kingston, down near the airport down there. I wouldn't put it up near Montego Bay. There's another airport there on the northern part of the island, but that's closer to where the core damage is going to be. So, and you got the two highways, the two 4-lane highways there that you can kind of utilize. Shut down all traffic, just, emergency vehicles only, and you can kind of head into those interior sections where the devastation is going to be bad. Now, I'm not exactly sure where the main power grid is. I would assume closer to Kingston because that's where the capital is. That's where most of your people are. But the western part of the island's power grid is going to be completely decimated. It's going to be completely obliterated, and it's going to take them months, if not years, to get that power grid back up there. If you recall, Puerto Rico a few years back had a bad hurricane that went over there. It took them a long time to get this thing back, and I suspect what we're going to see here over Jamaica is going to be very similar to that. Hey, it's 9 o'clock. Welcome to the channel. Again, I appreciate you guys checking us out here on the Weather Nerds YouTube channel as we're doing some I wouldn't really call it wall-to-wall because I can't stay on as long as I would like to today. But we're going to stay on as long as we can to give you the latest update here on this historic hurricane, Hurricane Melissa, which is going to be making landfall here across Jamaica, the first of 2 landfalls. It'll make another one in Cuba going into tomorrow night, and then it'll go into the Bahamas going into Wednesday. So we've got 3 areas that are going to be impacted by this historic storm. And I know that's a word that gets thrown around a lot, but not in this case. We're talking about a pressure that bottomed out at 901 millibars. That is only about 9 millibars away from the all-time record, which was 892 millibars with Hurricane Wilma back in 2005. So it's a top 10 storm. It is a textbook classic hurricane here, and I want to show you guys this. I was talking about this earlier. I want to show it again. This to me just blows my mind. I mean, the unprecedented. I cannot wait to see the time loop on this. But this is all lightning in the eye wall, guys. Look at all that lightning in that eye wall. These are your outer bands, and you typically get these outer band thunderstorms around the eye. But to get that concentration of lightning in the eye wall right before landfall is just amazing to see. That just nonstop, constant lightning flashes. So you're going to probably see in the next day or so, if not today, you'll see a time lapse of the lightning flashes in that eye as it was approaching Jamaica to make landfall. It's going to blow your socks off when you see it. It's just unreal. I can only imagine what the guys on the International Space Station are looking down. They're passing over this area and just kind of seeing what this thing's doing and going, wow. Just amazing to see Mother Nature. And thank you for that new subscriber, by the way. Thank you. Well, let's go back over to here as we're getting very close to landfall here. This thing's accelerating, so it's definitely happening a little bit quicker than what I was thinking. I thought it was going to be a little bit later, but I don't think so. I think we're getting awfully close. I mean, every time this thing gets an updated image, and this updates pretty rapidly here. And we're going to do another check here from down about 20 miles now. Go back over to our chaser to see if he loads up here. Again, I suspect he's going to have a hard time broadcasting. If he's using the infrastructure of the island, using the cell towers and stuff like that, probably going to lose his signal. But if he's using a Starlink, which is what I think he's probably using, we might be able to hold this video for a little bit longer. He's got his own power source, obviously his vehicle and stuff like that. So right now, not looking bad there. But I'm telling you folks, when it does, it's going to be like someone flipping a switch. It's going to come on like just a like a big tidal wave of wind energy that's just going to come through there and really kind of just plow everything in its path, you know? So let me see here. Let's see here. I want to look at one thing here. EF. Yeah, that's what I thought. So this thing, to give you guys a perspective, this here is your eye. This is your eye wall. This is your eye dead center. It's dead calm in the middle of this thing. So you got the eye wall right here. Okay. Now this thing measures across. You're going to measure across here from eye wall to eye wall, about 15 miles across the eye. 15 miles. So you're talking about a 15-mile wide EF4 tornado, if you want to put it in perspective, that's going to cut right through the center of the island, right through that path, either side, basically 7-8 miles either side of that. An EF4 tornado is going to just go right through there. And every tree, every building, every power line is going to be gone, just flattened. It's going to look like a moonscape when it comes to it. So get ready for those images. You're going to see them. Now, as far as the population centers are going, where that core is going appears to be the least populated area. That's a good thing. Montego Bay's got a lot of touristy thing. Kingston's over here. So it's going into this part of the island. I'm trying to maybe give it a little bit of a positive spin here. Can you imagine what this thing would have done if it would have made a landfall directly on Kingston? Because a couple of days ago, that's where we're showing it going. If this thing had gone over the core of Kingston, not only would the damage been unprecedented for the capital city there, which is, again, this is like it's just a third world country, but the devastation to recover would be a lot harder. So the fact that it's on this end of the island is a positive. But again, because if it's an island, the cascading effects it's going to have on the power grid and on everything else is just going to be tremendous. And there's islands, you're going to have mudslides, you're going to have floods. It is picking up forward speed, so that should begin to. It's been raining on the island for days already, but the additional rainfall amounts probably will not be as high there because of the fact that it's picking up some forward speed. So anyway, let's see here what we got here. Just checking to see if anybody had any questions out there. All right. Marla, good morning. Yeah, we were talking about Arby earlier, so I'm just double checking the chats here. So again, all righty. Appreciate everybody checking us out here for today. We had over 1,000 viewers here this morning on our coverage here that's been going on for just about an hour. Not too bad as we're getting closer to landfall here. And it looks like it's wobbling a little bit to the east of the center. So you see the center track. You see that center track there. So it's a little bit to the left there. And that's very normal because again, you're gonna get natural wobbles in the eye as it's getting closer and closer to the coastline. So as it gets closer to making that landfall there, it'll wobble back and forth. So it's like one big spinning top. You know, you take a spinning top and kind of spin it, and if you bump it, and my guess is some of the airflow is probably getting impacted just a little bit from some of the mountains in here. You do got some mountains that are up in this area, so a few thousand feet on that. So that'll impede the airflow just a little bit. But right now, boy, that vortex, it looks like one big giant vortex, just unreal. Let's go back over to the, let me go check this back over at the visible imagery again. I'll keep waiting on the visible to kind of come up there. Oh man, look at that. Wow. Oh, I'm sorry I'm geeking out on you guys too much, but this stuff really, I get excited about this stuff, even though at the same time I'm going, oh man, there's going to be people's lives are going to be devastated. There's people who are going to lose their life out of this, and I hate that. But the power of Mother Nature, you just can't help to be in a little bit of awe when you see something like this. And look at that stadium effect. I mean, just classic, perfect symmetrical. Look at the little swirls all around there. Let me freeze this thing. I mean, let me freeze that right there. Just look. I mean, you can look right down. Look at these swirls. I mean, you see these little eddies in here. Look at that. Just unreal. Let me check. Oh, let me get my right pen here for a second. Sorry about that. Let's use this. I mean, Just look at these swirls. Just see them. Look, see them all. Eddies all coming in there. Just unbelievable. And then you're just swirling around like a big toilet bowl going right down the middle of that thing. Air's just sinking just fast. In fact, this thing had the driest air ever recorded in a sound in the middle of a hurricane. Because the air was sinking so fast, it was drying out. It was the lowest ever recorded by a hurricane hunter yesterday. Just unprecedented. Thank you for that new subscriber, by the way. Thank you. So just unbelievable. Well, I tell you, he better be glad this thing's wobbled a little bit to the left there a little bit, because if it wobbled to the right, he'd been in the center on there. But there's the live view there. It still doesn't look that bad so far. Not yet. I keep getting back. I'm hoping before I leave here in a little bit that we'll be able to see this real quick. Oh, hold on one second. Sorry, I had to yell at my daughter. We got to go and get her a military ID today, so I had to make sure she got out of bed. So anyway, so there is our situation there. We are getting very close to landfall. Let me switch this back over. We haven't got quite enough what I would call visible yet to really kind of enjoy that view. Let me pull back here. I'm going to show you the perspective of the entirety of the storm. Look at that. Wow. That is a perfectly symmetrical, what we call CDO, central dense overcast. Okay, and in that overcast, that's where you got all your core your core winds, tropical storm force winds. We're talking between 39 and 74 miles per hour. The hurricane force winds only go 30 miles out from the center of circulation. So because it's very tight, that's a positive for at least the Kingston area. They're further down the coast, that'll not be a problem. But right in that eye wall, that is where those 175 mile per hour winds gusting to 215. Can you phantom that? I still can't progress that. 200 plus miles per hour winds. I mean, that is a category. I mean, we're talking like an EF4, EF5 type tornado that's in that eye wall that is going to be coming inland there across the island. That's going to just flatten it like a deck of cards. Just watching the chat, guys. Okay, all right, but this is getting really close, and there's been a little wobble here to the left, just a little, because they usually plot this so it's dead center of the eye, but you notice the little more of the eye is to the left of that track than to the right. But again, it's a natural wobble there. You're going to get that, and the eye wall from the coast. About 17 miles, I'd say. Like I said, definitely picking up forward speed. Picking up some forward momentum. Because even when it's halfway through the island, they only bring the winds down to 165. 165 with 200 mile per hour gusts. And that'll be at 2 o'clock this afternoon. So we're only a few hours. It might be a little bit further up. We'll see. But because it is showing signs of that trough that's digging across the east is starting to pick it up. We're starting to see that impact here. So this is what's driving. This is what's going to drive this storm here. I'll go back here to the model data real quick. And this big trough here, you see the big blue area? That's that trough, and as we got this upper level over here, it's going to pick this thing up and really drive it out. We have one trough that was exiting, that's doing the initial grab here. And then that next one's going to really accelerate. Just give it a look how fast this thing accelerates. It'll kick it right out. Boom. I mean, as that big low pulls out and really gives it a kick in the pants and drives it right across there and gets very close to Cuba before it's gone. And then it races into the North Atlantic. So as this thing moves up to the North Atlantic, what's going to be interesting to see is how the global jet stream pattern will change. So what I do suspect is going to happen here long term, there'll be a trough in the east initially, but we'll see how the overall jet stream global pattern changes once this thing gets up into the westerlies, and we'll see. It usually takes it about 7 to 10 days to kind of oscillate down a couple weeks for it to kind of oscillate globally, but we'll see what the weather pattern changes. Every time you get one of these tropical systems that go northward, it changes, buckles the jet stream. That's just a natural progression of these storms because they're bringing high pressure and they're buckling the jet, and as trough kind of goes on the back side of it. So again, appreciate everybody checking us out. It is now 9:15 here on Tuesday, October 28th, 2025, as we're getting ready for this landfall of this unprecedented historical hurricane. We're only a little ways away from this now, as we're getting close to making landfall here on this storm. And this is going to be one that's going to cause a tremendous amount of damage to the island of Jamaica. And when it's done with Jamaica, it's going to move up here into the far end of Cuba. Cuba's going to take it, and then it's going to go right through the islands here. Again, I've got it on the infrared, I got it on the mesoscale satellite, but it's going to go through these portions of the Bahamas and the Turks and Caicos. So that's what's going to happen there. Let's go take a look. We haven't looked at the camera there, and the cameras there across the island. So let's go look at the quad chart here. There's these kind of updates. Okay, so there, Kingston Harbor still looking a little choppy, but not bad. And Map Pen and Kingston are all looking not bad right now. So again, that part of the island I think is going to be the least impact because it's further away from the center of circulation. And again, we're getting the buffering because you got a lot of folks trying to go out there and look at that. There could be power problems too, so that could be causing some issues there as well. But there's Kingston Harbor. So I was expecting this. As we get closer to landfall, you get more people looking at those cameras, and they can only take so many because everybody wants to take a look at what's going on in Jamaica. And let's face it, it's Jamaica. They're not going to have these big servers and big cameras that can handle an overload of people trying to watch the videos for those locations. Let's go back here and see if our storm chaser is still up. Let's take a look at him. And he is sitting right here. Let's take a look at him. I suspect he's got 100 folks streaming him right now. Let's see if this comes up. And we kind of figured this was going to happen as we get closer and closer to landfall. You got to try it again here. There he goes. Oh, there you go. Wind's starting to pick up there a little bit. Yeah, and what's going to happen is as it's getting closer to landfall, what happens as well, especially if he's using a Starlink as his upload, you're going to get rain fade. You're going to get disruptions because the core of the hurricane will not allow the signal to kind of penetrate very well. That'll cause a problem there. So, but you clearly see that those winds are starting to really come up here a little bit now. And I suspect this is going to get even more and more disruptive as we're getting close to landfall. Yeah, that's definitely starting to come up there. Solid tropical storm force winds now. Where it looked like it looked like gusts. Now we're kind of getting more sustained winds coming in there. So let's get a little bit closer here to the eye. There's our eye here. Yeah, he's going to be just on the edge of that. If it wobbles back to the right, man, he better not hope it wobbles too much. But right now it's wobbling to the left. So our storm chaser is right here. There's our chaser right there. That's our one view, and this is the projected path. But right now it looks like it's favoring the left side of that. Yesterday it was amazing because it was tracking westward, and it passed the line, and then it came to it was like someone put a stop sign up, and it went just stopped, froze for about an hour or so, and then it finally started taking that turn to the north. It was like, okay, when's it gonna make this turn to the north? We keep waiting for it, and it finally did, and then it finally kind of came back on to the original forecast track. It did come back online with what was there, but for a second it went by it and then backed up and came back toward it yesterday. Hey Edith, how much of an impact it'll not much. I don't think it's going to impact. It will help weaken it a little bit. It'll disrupt the flow. It would not shock me. This eye looks completely different when it reemerges on the other side. When it gets back over to this side, it's not going to look like this, because as soon as it gets away from the warm waters that it's feeding off of, that's going to weaken it. The mountains are going to disrupt the flow. That's going to weaken a little bit, but it'll still be a Category 5 hurricane. I think it'll reemerge as a cat, down to maybe about 160 once it gets on the other side. Maybe it gets down to Cat 4, back down to 155, but that's still, we're talking semantics here. We're still talking about a very powerful bad hurricane. And what happens though here, folks, once the eye gets disrupted, and as I'm just going on this historical here, that it doesn't usually get its act back together. You're seeing it right now at its peak strength, its peak intensity. It'll be a slow, steady decline from here on out. A couple of reasons for that. Once the eye gets disrupted, it takes a long time for it to get reconstituted. All right, and that's number one. That's number one. Number two, the upper level dynamics are going to pick this thing up and accelerate. It's going to pick up speed. Wind shear is going to become a little bit of a problem. Remember that hurricanes are one big giant heat engine. Okay, right now there's perfect conditions. The heat's coming in at the bottom, it's coming in through the top like a big chimney and evacuating out. But once those higher level winds start blowing, it disrupts the airflow. So it's like taking a chimney where the smoke's going through the center, all the heat's going out, and covering it up. So when the wind shear starts covering up, the eye is not gonna, it's gonna become obscure. You're not gonna see this pretty little eye like we got right now. We probably won't see that tomorrow. Okay, odds are we'll still see the center circulation, but we're not going to see an eye not like this. It's going to get disrupted for sure. All right, so it's going to look a lot different out there. So this here kind of been new. If you're just joining us here this morning as we're kind of watching the track here on our hurricane, again, we're talking about a Category 5 hurricane, a top 10 hurricane historically here in the Atlantic Basin. That's going to hit Jamaica, Cuba, and go through the Bahamas and a glancing blow to Bermuda. That's what we're looking at here from now through Thursday with this storm. This is going to cause a tremendous amount of damage. There's going to be some loss of life, hopefully a minimal amount, that the governments of Cuba have taken what they needed to do. In Jamaica, a lot of folks are on the far eastern end of the island. I know they say, well, don't you want to go to the western side? Not in this case, because the core is so dang tight. The hurricane force winds only go about 30 miles from the center. So get them toward Kingston, get them toward the far east end of the island here, because in the distance here from the eye to Kingston is 90 miles away. So let me go back over here. So this is 90 miles away. The hurricane force winds only go 30 miles from the center. So that's why I say you bring them down to this part of the island. Even though this is the rough part of the island, you just stay away from the coastal areas for the storm surge, but you'll be all right. But this part of the island here is going to get. I think this thing's favoring the left side. I tell you, all those tourist resorts up in Montego Bay. That's why I was saying earlier that the relief efforts are probably going to come out of the Kingston International Airport and not the one up in Montego Bay, because it's favoring that way. But if this thing continues to wobble here to the left, all those tourist spots up here are going to get completely decimated. And that's really bad for Jamaica, because that is their blood, that is their lifeline. It's agriculture and tourism, okay? And Montego Bay takes a direct hit from this thing. Oh boy, I mean, you're talking years to rebuild to try to bring that up. If anybody's gone on Montego Bay and gone to those tourist spots up there in northern Jamaica, that is going to be just unreal. And right now, this thing is wobbling to the left a little bit. You see, it's favoring that left side there. So that can really be a problem here up across Montego Bay if it gets up that way. It's also, I'm a little concerned that this wobble to the left too, because obviously if that's where the tourist parts are, that's where all the support staff and everybody else lives. So a little more population center up there, up toward Montego Bay and toward Kingston. Those are the more populated areas there. So I'm a little concerned about that wobble to the left that we're currently seeing out there. That could be a problem. Let's go back over to I want to go back over to the visible here. There's your group light. There's your lightning. Yeah, look at all the lightning. That's the group flash there. Yeah, I'm just kind of checking out let's go a long way. All right, let's go back to the visible here. Wow. Unbelievable. That is amazing. Look at that. That's your first visible imageries of this hurricane. You can see the sun just kind of coming up and shining off the western eye wall there. That's the sun reflecting off those clouds. And if you haven't seen that video, by the way, yesterday that the Hurricane Hunters posted yesterday, go out on Twitter. You'll see it. It just put Hurricane Melissa, Hurricane Hunter eye wall. You put that out there. Take a look at that. It's unreal, unbelievable video. They kind of come out of the clouds. You come into this thing. It's like heaven opened up, and you see the aura, the symmetry of that eye wall, that stadium effect, the clouds. It just looked like something AI had drawn up, and it wasn't AI. That was real. I mean, it looked unbelievable when that was coming in there. Just unbelievable I'll look there. So anyway, let's go back here to, I want to go back and check the cameras here. I want to keep checking on these guys. Now it's wind speed's back down again. I'm keep waiting to see when these winds are going to come up on here. I got another 6 minutes, man. I hate that I got to shut down, but I got to do it. Got to do it, unfortunately. So just so you guys know my plan, for those who, my normal viewers who check me out here and everything else, we'll come back up here probably later this afternoon. By that time, we should be emerging out into Cuba. We'll do a little coverage here for this evening. And we'll do some additional coverage tomorrow as we get ready to track this thing going into the Bahamas. Now, tomorrow I do not have any appointment or anything with the military to take care of my daughter's ID card, so I don't have to worry about that. I can't miss this day. I believe me, if I could, I would, but I can't. So I got to take care of that. But we're going to go do that today, and then tomorrow we'll track this thing going into the Bahamas. But we got a few more minutes here. We're going to hold on here for a second, and then we're going to get on the road here. I got to drive. I live on the northeast side of Atlanta, and I got to go all the way over to the northwest side. Always, it's like a 60-mile drive. I got to go on the other side of town to do this. Again, let me break this down for everybody here to give you all an update on everything here. All right. So again, we're watching this hurricane here coming into landfall right now. Okay. So we're really close. We're only about maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours away from landfall. The pressure bottomed out on the storm at 901 millibars. The top sustained winds are 175 miles per hour with gusts to 215. Okay. The hurricane force winds only go about 30 miles from the center. Tropical storm force winds go 195 miles from the center. Rainfall amounts could be anywhere from 15 to 30 inches across the island. Total for the whole duration of this thing. Catastrophic flooding we're looking at. We're also looking at landslides. That's going to be a problem. And again, we're going to have that storm surge along the initial path. Looks like 9 to 13 feet as that thing comes on in. All right. Again, storm surge all has to do with the depth of the water. Again, this drops off pretty quickly, so it's fairly deep as it's going compared to, like, say, the Gulf of Mexico. So, and the concurve of the coastal area. So, like, if this was up in the Big Bend area, a storm like this, it would probably like a 25 to 30 foot storm surge. But this is lower because it's not as shallow water there. All right. So, and it's the concurve of the coast. But all the storm surge is going to be on the right side of this eye. So Alligator Point, all up in here, this whole area here is going to be decimated with storm surge. That whole area. That's where all that heavy surge will be. And then basically, as this eye goes on through here, it will act like a giant tornado, several tornadoes spinning around the eye wall. That's about 12 miles across. And you have a 12-mile wide tornado that's going to go right through the heart of the island. And as I've been saying, and I've been a little concerned, is that we've been seeing this wobble to the east. And why is that important? It's important because of Montego Bay. That is a touristy area there. I know the tourists are probably all gone up there, but you got, again, support staff and population center up that way. That up there, that's the second biggest city in Jamaica is Montego Bay. Kingston is the largest. All right, let me switch this back over to the IR here. It's just easier to kind of see the wobbles in the eye on the IR, and it's still favoring that eastern wobble here, and it gets me really concerned that Montego Bay might catch the eye wall there, because you see where here's the track. Now it could wobble back the other way. It could. I mean, you'll do that little snake effect here. I mean, that's possible, but it's definitely got a little bit of a westerly wobble here. So, I'm concerned about Montego Bay getting some of those core winds, those 175 mile per hour winds, because the economy of Jamaica is driven by tourism and agriculture. And if those touristy places take tremendous amount of damage, it'll take literally years for them to get that monetary money coming back in there again. So what I'll probably end up doing here later today is here, since I'm going to shut down here shortly, when we do the broadcast, I will put the link in the chat for the American Red Cross for folks to make donations. Again, as soon as this storm goes by, the relief efforts will come in. They're already pre-staged. The Navy is pre-staged. The U.S. military is staged to go in there. Humanitarian relief is all staged to go. They're ready to go in there. Coast Guard is ready to go in there. Everybody will be ready to go in Jamaica here pretty quickly once this goes by. So by tonight, as early as this evening, we should have the first emergency crews going in there. Obviously, be search and rescue first, because you know we're going to have some rescues and some issues there with some folks that are going to have to be dealing with potential deaths and rescues, and infrastructure that has collapsed and fallen. Again, this is a third world country, so it doesn't have the strongest infrastructure in the world, and then the power grid, getting that back up. Now Kingston is on the far end. Again, I'm not expecting a tremendous amount of damage into Kingston. I think they're far enough away. They'll have some problems, but nothing like they're going to see closer to where the eye is going on shore. Let's go back here to the camera here real quick. Going back to the live shot here, as we're kind of looking at the tropical storm force winds for the most part blowing through there right now, but this is going to be going downhill very rapidly here in the next hour and a half or so. All right. I want to thank you once again for watching my coverage here for this morning. If you haven't subscribed, please consider doing so. I'd love to have you back for a future update later today and for tomorrow. It's an honor and privilege to be one of your weather sources. I've got to get on the road here, but I will be back up here later today to give you guys an update. And all I can say, folks, is please say a prayer for the folks in Jamaica. Let's hope that we have a minimal loss of life. It'd be great if it's zero, but I know better. But let's hope we don't have a lot of loss of life there. And let's pray for the folks not only for Jamaica, but Cuba and in the Bahamas and Bermuda. Those are all in the path of the storm. And that hopefully that recovery can start very quickly. All right, that's it. I appreciate you guys checking us out.